higher reward gameplay.
Correct.
I
You
think
know,
that's
yeah,
the most important dynamic when it comes to building a successful on-chain game, and the NFT game that's going to be the next project to drop. That
Yes, that's what we're super
basically,
excited about.
yeah, basically all of the contracts are done on it. We have the front end and some of the art and stuff that needs to be finished.
Yeah.
But
you know,
but that dynamic that we're talking about
yeah.
is the primary dynamic of our game that we built
Well,
it around.
That's
once you've done that,
beautiful.
I'd love to have you back on the show again,
Oh, for
Oh
sure.
Forex,
yeah,
and
You know,
obviously because this is a huge market over here.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
it is, and I personally have some scholars. They call it an axie, only to give opportunity to people over here. Because yes, agree. You're playing this game and you're earning crypto that you could sell, which you could sell for, and that's your earnings. You're actually
you
earning
can live
more
off.
than if you were to go to a regular job, and
yeah,
that's the reality for people. The masa, we call it the masa over here, the majority of people. And
Yeah,
if your NFT game that you push out later can have those qualities where people could then earn from basically just playing and without huge investments, and or whether you get people like us who can then invest in certain parts of the platform and then give it off to somebody who can then actually earn through that.
yeah.
yeah,
That'll play an important
So
role, because that's why the adoption is so huge with Axie, because it has that, right?
yeah, so
And,
for our game, essentially, uh, there are NFTs that act as assets that allow you to essentially earn in-game currency. The in-game
hmm
currency, your the rate that you're earning it at is dependent on the NFT you hold, and the NFT that you hold essentially evolves based on the XP, or the amount of resources that you spent grinding in the
yeah,
game.
nice.
So
hmm
someone who would be a higher capital player that wants to come into the game,
yeah,
instead of spending their time with one of the starting NFTs and grinding to evolve it to get to a system where now they can do some of the higher end gameplay, they can go right to a secondary market and buy one of these already evolved NFTs that someone would
yeah,
have got and created by getting in at a low end by a relatively small starting investment, but then grinding the game and having good strategies to evolve
Right.
it. So now they can essentially sell their time to someone who has the capital to buy their time,
That's right.
and
yeah.
That's right.
use well, their
That's right.
their primary asset, which is capital. So
Right.
That's
And
right.
uh,
yeah, and scholars I had were ultimately trying to get into drip. Trying to get them in drip.
Yeah,
However, because of their financial situation, this is a good starting point. So now you could earn with Axie or the game that we're gonna launch,
uh,
and then they could apply some of those earnings, or the earnings that I would put in my pocket. I'm actually giving them a bonus by setting up another drip account just for them, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're really ultimately changing lives. I mean, from level
uh,
one all the way
totally.
up, like it's
Oh,
unlimited.
thank you,
So
man. That
yeah,
was
man.
always the idea. I mean, when I build something, it's because this isn't the first project I've built that people have told me they've changed their life. So when I build something and I put it out there,
Yeah, man.
it's with extreme seriousness, because I've had
Right.
people tell me that they had medical conditions that they were able to take care of because of a project I built.
Yeah, man.
And I just think of all the people out there that have like rug pulled or launched a
Oh, for
bug
sure.
Yeah,
contract or something like that. And I just
Oh
think
yeah.
of all the, like, imagine this person that was able to get their medical procedure done, or able to pay off the debt of their family home that they would have lost because of a project
absolutely.
that I launched. Uh, Imagine if they had bought that other person's project and got rug
Yep.
pulled or whatever.
Yeah,
So
That's right.
I just I look at it when I launch something. I look at it from that perspective, as if everybody that's buying the token off me has their house on their line, or they have
Yeah.
their
Right.
health or their family,
man.
Yep.
Yeah,
assets on the line, and I take it that seriously with every project I launch.
Yep.
It's definitely a life changer, bro. And you know this. I said this to you on the stream we did with Brandon as well. I'm one of those people that it covered my medicals. I had that dreaded disease for a few weeks, and it helped
Yeah.
me through all of that. And you know, changing lives, man. This is permanent. I don't
For
work
sure.
anymore, bro. I don't work anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. You're talking to two guys who are literally living off trip right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
man.
Anyway.
awesome. Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
continue to go. I think as far as the NFT goes, what the NFT game, what I'm looking at doing, most likely is launching on Solana, and the reason
Yep.
we would be launching on
Nice.
Solana is because currently right now, the ERC20 network is too expensive to run, and
Hmm.
it's too slow to run a
Mm,
game like that.
Yeah.
mm,
And you see with Axie Infinity, they did an update recently, but for the vast majority of their the life of their project, their game wasn't functional, and they were
mm.
having
Yeah.
all kinds of issues with their servers. And uh, so partly
Yeah.
it was due to just the fact that they grew so fast and they didn't have the servers necessarily to handle it, and part of it
Yeah.
was just the slowness and cost of the RC20 network that caused a lot of
Right.
issues for them. So I don't want to launch on the ERC20 network, but the ERC20 network has the best infrastructure for an NFT
Yeah.
project. Now I would say
Mhm.
second to that is Solana, but Solana is very quickly building the infrastructure
Yeah.
it needs to have a successful NFT game and NFT project. And currently, they do have that infrastructure. It's just a bit newer than the ERC20 network, and they're
Yeah.
cheap and fast enough to actually do it in a way that I want to do it. And the
Yeah.
way we would incorporate that with Drip is uh, the what I'm leaning towards is because you can still launch NFTs on Binance Smart Chain. It just doesn't
Yeah.
have a good secondary market, and it doesn't have some of the ways that it handles NFTs aren't ideal. But you can still
Mm,
Hmm.
buy, sell, and mint NFTs on Binance Smart Chain. So what will likely happen is the NFT game has multiple NFTs and some of the NFTs are items, in-game items. Some of them are
Hmm.
tools, and essentially, uh, there we set up all different kinds of conditions for these NFTs. For example, there's an NFT that there's only one of these NFTs in the game, and someone can buy it. And
Mm.
when they buy it off someone, the price of that NFT then becomes 40% higher than the price
Whoa.
that person just paid for it. But
Wow.
every day
Whoa.
it reduces in price by 1%. So
Oh,
Ah.
it reduced the price by 1%, and then it could potentially get to lower than the price of that person that bought it off them. But
Yeah.
likely if that person wanted it, they would just buy it at that rate again, or someone can choose to buy it higher than them. But anyways, there's this bidding game, and this
Yeah.
NFT is an item in the game that gives you specific powers, a specific gameplay that people can take advantage of in the
Awesome.
game.
crazy.
So there's
Crazy.
that model, and then there are there's and that's just one. So there's several items that are one of one that have that
Yeah.
type of bidding system. Then
Yeah.
there is an NFT that is kind of like uh, an NFT that everybody shares that is part of the
Yeah.
game uh, that you get when you first buy into the game, and that's kind of like
Hmm.
the starter one that lets you
Mm,
start playing the game. And
Yeah.
then there are in-game items that are not one of one, but they're one of a specific number, and these are items in the game. And it's possible to have one of these items be an NFT on the Binance Smart Chain that we use the front end and so a back end contract to communicate with the rest of the game if this NFT is staked or burned or whatever we decide to do with it. So
mm,
what we will like
Wow.
the way we'll likely integrate Drip with the NFT game is having an NFT on the Binance Smart Chain that you can only buy with the Drip token, and it acts as an item that can be staked in the game, on the front end of our game, even though the majority of our game is running on Solidity, we would use a back end contract that just communicates to the Solidity contract
Mm.
when when this NFT is staked on Binance Smart Chain and who is staking it. Then that information, when it's communicated to the Solidity network, would be stored on the Solidity chain.
Wow.
That person owns it
Mm-hmm.
there,
Makes sense.
and
Yeah.
then say they unstake it, then the backend contract, which is controlled by the front end, would then update the Solidity chain that they just unstaked it. And it's a way to do cross chain. And since it
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
just be the staking of an NFT, it'd be very easy to do that kind of cross chain because you're just updating
Mm.
one piece of information. And the code would be that backend code would be open source as well. So this is what I'm leaning towards because we already have the contracts built for the NFT game, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, we could do it the whole thing on Binance Smart Chain, but I just feel like it's going to be way more successful on Solidity. So now I had
Yeah.
to think, all right, how am I going to integrate Drip in it in some way? Because I really wanted to do that, and I think that's
Yeah.
the ideal way: have an
Mm.
NFT on Binance Smart Chain that can be bought only with Drip, that can be
Yeah.
staked on the front end of the game, and there's a backend contract that's updating the Solidity chain when you do this. So,
So that's the bridge. Yeah.
so
Nice.
Yeah.
it's just it's just another thing. This is something that me and my partner are super excited about because building a game can be a lot of fun, and the theming that we chose is extremely fun. And I brought on a developer that builds games. That's like he's not specifically a blockchain dev or a Solidity dev or a Rust dev. He builds games, and he's built some mobile games and some tower defense games. And we brought him on
Nice.
specifically to ensure that the game was fun and
Mm.
balanced and actually took strategy. It wasn't like some of these other games where essentially it just comes down to who has the most money because
Right.
there's
Mm.
no
Very linear.
strategy. It's you buy this one player because this one
Yeah.
player is overpowered. You just buy as much as you can of hit that one player, and now you're going to win the game. Essentially, whoever has the most
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
This game is very well balanced, so there's strategy there, and this allows people who have less capital but more time and more strategy and more strategic thinking to have a bigger advantage. And someone who has less capital could have more advantage to someone who has the same amount of
There you
time
go.
and the same amount of capital because they have more strategy in their gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm